Well, hello, and welcome to Opal City Confidential, a Starman podcast. I am here with Kirby and Brent. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hi,
Hey
hi,
guys.
Russ. Thanks for bringing me back.
This is a re-record because Ross the Luddite thought he'd saved the recording. Zoom said I saved it, but it wasn't on my computer. So we've reconvened to talk about Secret Files #1 of Starman. So we're gonna get started. Real quick, I'm gonna give the publication pertinent data from Mike's Amazing World and the fandom wiki because there isn't one that has everything. There we go. So this was published on February 11th, 1998. Cover date April 1998. $4.95. Ooh, that's what you pay for a regular comic now. Edited by Archie Goodwin. And the story, the one story that's in the book, is written by James Robinson, pencils by Lee Weeks and Phil Jimenez, inks Robert Campanella, letterer Jonathan Babcock, colorist Lee Lothridge, and this has been reprinted 3 times past, trade back. Starman Omnibus Volume 3 hardcover and the Starman Compendium, which is where I read it. And I read it on the app, except they put it in different places. There we go. So before we get into the interior, I wanted to let's just chat about the cover real quick. What do you think about this Tony Harris cover?
I think it's like just a solid, presentation of Jack. This is, a picture you would put like on a trading card or now, or it's like Wikipedia entry nowadays.
Yeah, I kind of it's not as dynamic as it, but I'm a big fan of the Secret Files. Um, I really do love all of them.
I think most of them are pretty good. I think there's a
Yeah,
few ones, like some of the Superman ones, they get a bit thin. Yeah, I think like the Team Superman one, it's kind of like really, yeah. But
yeah.
they were great. Like the Legion, the 3 Legion ones are amazing.
They
Yep.
all the JSA one, was it 2 of
Justice
them?
ones, yeah,
Yeah, they were
amazing.
good.
There was a good
Justice
Flash one
League,
as well.
yes, yeah, with some Phil Jimenez
Hmm.
double page spreads.
Yeah, anything with Phil Jimenez, I'm
Yeah.
a big fan. His a buddy of mine is friends with him. Kirby met him. My buddy we met
Oh
at the
yeah,
con. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
They're him and Phil are friends.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no.
But it's good, always good to see this. I like this. I dislike these things. I always did. Um, I think the
Yeah,
inner
it's
cover, the
interesting.
second cover in this, is better than the original
Well, that's
cover.
what I think that's interesting about the cover in this one is that there's actually a second cover. So when you open the book, the first page is another cover, basically,
Yeah,
and which is kind of interesting. And it's like they decided, I think, to go with this painted cover, which reminds me a bit of the Pulp annual series that they did as well, with a bit of that painted art and
Yeah.
got a real 50s feel, which I think suits Jack as well. Like, he looks like he's from a times past in a way, like a retro time.
yeah.
Which
He's that, like, he looks like a lot of the guys I knew in art. The university where I went here in Richmond and is connected to the hospital I work. It's an art college. It's a very well-renowned art college, and there are a lot of guys like Jack walking around that were like, "Are you 40s guy, 50s guy, 80s guy?" But yeah,
it's interesting the amount of pink that there is in the tones on this cover. I think it would have probably stood out on the shelves at the time,
Hmm.
especially with the black grim and gritty 90s stuff that was everywhere. Like this would have stood out with all the yellow and pink.
yeah,
One thing I really do like is radiating off of Jack and kind of the cosmic rod. It's just like these very faint little squiggles. I can tell you, like Tony Harris. I'm not sure if this is, watercolor, acrylic, whatever it is. It's like I can see the brush strokes, and I know exactly what he did to get those going.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
It's his.
cool.
his work is always amazing, and his covers are just norm. I mean, a lot of the covers he did were all just sometimes one of the best parts of the book. And I mean, the books were always good, but just above average. Because I'm not a big fan of the modern comic cover in some ways, because sometimes it has nothing to do with the book.
You know what I'm just noticing? What's really interesting is that second cover is not credited inside the book. There's actually there's no detail on it.
Huh.
And I don't think it's Tony Harris.
You don't?
I think it's someone like Phil Hester when I look at that. Like, it doesn't look like. So this is the second page, which has Jack sort of zooming up with his hand outstretched and the rod sort of trailing behind him.
Now that you say it, I can see I can see the Hester in it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is, but I'm a big Phil Hester
it's
fan,
not
though.
credited. There's no credits for page 1,
Oh.
which is really interesting. So
okay, that's not
pretty
reprinted in the 3rd volume hardback, so
It
Okay.
isn't.
No,
Wait a minute.
No.
There's quite a
My
few things
compendium.
reprints missing from this issue.
okay, huh?
Yeah.
That's a shame. Well,
Yeah.
justification for me to buy I'm not doing that just for one page.
The comic. I think it's.
I like my
it's either
compendium.
the map or the timeline. One of them is missing from the trade, from the compendium.
It's that the timeline's also not in this hardcover. I can say
It's
that.
in my compendium.
Okay.
Is it? No, it's not in my compendium.
I'm not sure about that, Ross.
Yeah, hold on. I got it. I've got it on the tablet, so I can.
Often these things come down to, like, in the printing industry, it needs to be a multiple of I think it's 4 or 8 to actually make a book. Like,
Oh, that makes sense.
including the ads. You know, a page is folded in half and printed on both sides, so it's got to be a multiple of 4. And I think with some of those, a lot of the DC sort of reprint stuff, you often get a blank page or a filler page, or especially if there's a letter column or something that was on one of those pages and they need to catch up so that the double page spreads fall in the right place. So I think this is possibly a case of that they had to take something out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think they include the contents page either in the compendium. I'm not sure if that's in there either.
I don't think it is. I just
No.
I put it back down, but it's the map.
The 4 pages they have to take out, the 2 of the timeline, and then
well, they make these things, like, especially this big thick one, these big tomes. I mean, you could have done these, and you could do the compendium in 3, and it may have been a little less wieldy. I'm enjoying it because I got them and it takes up less space than the hardcovers. But I like those 2 covers. So this book has the one story. We're going to start with that, folks, which is Jack and Ted having conversations with Sadie, his girl. Ted talks to Sadie about Jack, and Jack talks with his tattoo artist, because everybody has a tattoo artist, like they have a barber or a beautician. I guess. I have my friends that have tattoos have artists. His name is Morris. And I was reading ahead for a future episode, and Morris appears again, and I had forgotten that.
Very nice.
And
indeed, and it's funny you say that he's talking to Sadie, because when I look at this first page, Ross, my first thought was that it was Hope O'Dare.
I can see that.
I didn't recognize Sadie in that image straight away.
She looks so unlike Sadie, as Sadie has looked in this Starman, and how she looked in the previous as Will Payton's sister. You know what I mean? This looks nothing like. She's never drawn this way. And what gets me is I'm on the fandom wiki, and the image they have for her is the Philomena's version. Not the Tony Harris, not the Cernberg, not the
it's really
not the way she looked in the book, where she was created for the previous incarnation.
Yeah.
So
I can tell you,
it's a little
page 1. I'm already excited.
Huh?
I'm already excited on page 1 because as a younger person back in 1998, I was probably, I don't know, 26 or something. I spotted Phil Jimenez in this very first panel, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Phil Jimenez drawing Starman. And I was so excited. I'd obviously followed him on other things before this, and yeah, this is so effing cool. My goodness, I was thrilled. And it's interesting, just this whole page is just this, it's a, I guess it's, you know, it's a talking with Ted, talking with Jack. So obviously a reference to talking with David in terms of the title. But the text on the page is kind of 4 pieces of dialogue. The first one is, so tell me about him. The second one is, tell me about Jack. And that's clearly Sadie talking to Ted. And then the tattooist says, tell me about your father. And then we've got another word, balloon, which is, and how he became Starman. And it's kind of like they merge together. So it can be all Sadie saying it, except the third one. So she could be saying, so tell me about him, tell me about Jack, and how he became Starman. But then the lines are also, so tell me about him, tell me about your father, and how he became Starman. So it can be referring to Jack or Ted. It's very clever.
I think it's the devices that they use throughout the story to move through 2 different stories, you know, about two men that a father and a son. You know what I mean? That,
yeah.
And I mean, you know, every father and son have that thing about how much am I like my dad? Am I like him? Am I not? You know what I mean? You know,
100%. And I think it does well. Like you could see in a movie, like you can hear, like there's the intercut of you hear the tell me about Jack, tell me about your father. You know, you hear both of them at the same time. And one thing I want to bring up, just so I don't forget, is I get everything on Ted's lab table except for the human skull. There is nothing about his branch of science that involves a human skull.
well, I mean, and the test tubes.
I was sort of commenting on this, and it's interesting when you get to the character pages in this book. I think that image comes up again in the Mist family.
Oh.
And, so there's a skull in the middle of that. So there's some connection there. There's probably a bit of Alas Poor Yorick as well, Ted having this skull. But I actually wonder whether, you know, it's possibly the Mist Senior that is the skull, because there's some smoke or mist coming off the skull in that image. So I wonder, you know, it's often associated with Dr. Phosphorus or someone like that. But
I was going to say, the Spectre comes over and goes, even the Spectre is freaked out by him just having the skull there.
yeah.
Maybe it's Jim Corrigan's skull.
Oh, God.
Jim,
I
found your
a
head.
proper burial.
Yeah. Could be Alex Holland's skull or something as well, you know.
Well, what I like about that first page is if this was like a movie, if they had been writing a screenplay, that was the opening scene or television episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That it would work beautifully, intercutting, and that you have 2 different artists. I love seeing Phil Jimenez, but I'm a huge Lee Weeks fan. I've never read a Lee Weeks comic that I didn't at least think was beautiful.
It's a really,
I think they complement each other well. Oops, sorry.
What I like is the juxtaposition. Normally, Lee Weeks is hired to do the retro look. You know what I mean? He's done Gold. He's done Superman in the God, he did Roy Thomas Ellsworth's War of the Worlds. I think that's the War of the Worlds one. He does a lot of I've seen him do noir and stuff like that. And Phil Jimenez is, you know, he's modern. He's, you know, he's very much of that school of the Perez Byrne kind of artists. And I like how the older character is drawn by, it's not because he's telling Jack's story. I just like the juxtapositions of the 2 styles. One just feels older, one feels newer.
And I think one of the other things, sort of as we go through this, is how Robinson has connected these 2 sort of stories that are running simultaneously through what he's doing as well. And there has to have been quite a lot, I reckon, of description for the artists in this one, because both of them have represented a heap of shadow in both scenes. So there's a lot of shadowing. Both of them have got a cross, a sort of Christian cross iconography in them. So Jack's tattoo is a Christian cross, but there's some sort of chemistry equipment in a box behind Ted that's casting a cross as a shadow on the ground. And so I think there's something going on with what Robinson's doing as well with the art. And there's a lot of shadow on both Ted and Sadie as well, and even the blackboard, which I leant in to see if there's any spoilers on the blackboard, but there weren't. I'm so used to looking at the Time Masters blackboard.
Oh, I respect. I mean, when 52 is one of my cornerstone books, that's all I'm trained for.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I like a good one. I'm a all the stuff that went into Golden Age and then the G5, whatever they didn't do. I always like those, even if it doesn't pay off. It's always what was the original plan? And I like how we like on the second page we get to Jack talking about to Morris, and Morris has never really asked him about his dad.
Yeah, because Jack says it's like your Japan giant robot toys, Big Daddy Roth, or Lisa Boyle movies. And Lisa Boyle, the only thing I could find on IMDb was like an actress who was like in Earth Girls Are Easy and like Bimbo Number 5 and Married with Children, stuff like that. So I'm like, is that who that's referring to?
Probably.
Yeah.
Earth Girls Are Easy. I guess so. Jack would.
Yeah.
Well, tattooed guys into bad B movies.
Yeah.
And then
it's nice. We get a bit of a look at some of Jack's tattoos up close too, which is kind of cool. The dragon one and things
with his dad's initials. I'd forgotten about that when I reread it. And it's like, oh, that thing about, because we're going to see this motif of the angry son and father that don't get along, but they're so much alike. And, Jack is the natural heir to Ted.
One thing I have read is that all of Jack's tattoos were actually based on Tony Harris's own. So I'm curious as to like what, I'm sure it's a Japanese character or something that is on Tony Harris's arm. So,
well, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. I've always said if I was going to get a tattoo, I'd get what people can't see. I mean, I've got Jack's astrological star. I wouldn't mind that one, but I'm not patient enough or want someone to poke that many holes in me.
Yeah,
that or an Oakland A's thing, but now I wouldn't do that. But I want to talk about Lee Weeks. Lee Weeks draws Jack like a 50s movie star.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a William Holden or Robert Mitchum to me. That I don't think he looks like it, but he'd be that kind of. In Jack's mind, that's who he'd want to be.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Does Weeks draw Jack to probably to look a little older? Because Jack to me is always like that in that like 29 to like 32 age, and he looks older here.
I've never really thought about it. I've always thought he was. Yeah, he's not in his. He's in his 20s, but he's in his late 20s. He's not 22. He's not even 25. Yeah. He's a grown person who's done all the stuff he's doing, and now he's just living his life. He found his little, what he thinks is his spot in the world, being a dealer of hipster
Antiques.
Treasures.
Yeah.
He's the only cool hipster, in my opinion.
Oh, I loved that whole antique collecting retro mid-century vibe about Jack.
Yeah, I love that. That's an aesthetic I like too. I mean, I honestly do.
Same here.
I would prefer, what are those beautiful Scandinavian chairs with the foot? We almost bought one for me when we were. Yeah. Well, it's not a real one. It's they, not,
Yeah.
they're modern versions, knockoffs. But because I wanted a nice chair I could fall asleep in reading, but we went for the Lazy Boy because that was cheaper.
Yeah.
And it wasn't cheap. But I like
The
that
layout,
aesthetic.
the layouts, even by page, like I think it's page 3, 4, and 5 we've been talking about, is like page 3, which is the first part of this story, is we've got a Phil Jimenez, Ted, and Sadie bit at the top, and then we've got a Jack and the tattooist at the bottom. And then when you turn the page, you've got a double page that's got Lee Week's art on one side and Phil Jimenez on the other. And
Yeah.
that sort of giving each story this a half. And then on the next page, another device is used where we've got a 6-panel grid, and the 3 left panels are Lee Weeks and the 3 right panels are Phil. And then the next panel on the next page, it reverses. And so the left-hand side is Phil's and the right-hand side is Lee Weeks. It's very clever, this book, the way it's been plotted in terms of the art. And I think they must have been working together on this. I think they have to have been sharing pages or at least sketches of what they were going to be doing.
Yeah, because it's 90s. They could fax them to one another. And I bet I'm assuming Robinson's a full scripter. He's never using a partial Marvel method, or you know what I mean? Because some of them, Alan Moore does it to the graffiti on the chair.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. He's going to tell you, I need these words etched in this tree or whatever. And I think that Robinson does that. I definitely think he does it. And in something like this, there's nothing in this story that isn't intentional.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
This would be way easier nowadays just with all the digital art, but yeah, back in the 90s.
Imagine, they did this on paper.
Yeah, this is hard. This is hard copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, I
Absolutely.
find amazing, because a lot of artists don't do paper at all. And then there's some who do it for you. I've got some art by a guy named Simon Fraser, and he still does it on paper because he wants to sell the art.
Yep.
Because that's, because they're not paid a good wage.
Nope.
Yeah.
Even now. So, but it's so well planned out. And it's like on that first 6-panel page, you see Jack. He's laying down in silhouette. His face is in shadow. His dad's sitting up, but his face is in shadow. So not every panel mirrors, but there is some continuity some similarity in between the panels. Like on the second page, where if the artist flips sides, you've got Ted and Sadie in a panel, and you got Jack and Ted in a panel. So you have 2 people, even though it's not exactly the same, but it's similar.
Yeah, and even the one with the tattooist's hands and Sadie, it's still that secondary character, the one that's asking the question, that's in that panel.
Yeah.
And, that's really cool. And even the one where Jack's talking about getting the lettering done on the tattoo in the T and the H, that's juxtaposition with Ted saying, well, let me think for a moment, what can I say about Jack? So it's kind of like it's Ted's talking about his dad, Jack's talking about his dad, and Ted's talking about Jack. It's very clever, very, very clever. And I love the use of Jimenez to draw the older character, because one of the things he does is really differentiates faces. And so we're getting amazing wrinkles, and Ted really looks old here. And I think it's sometimes hard to draw really old or really young characters in comics, because they're often so stylized as these perfect human beings that we kind of get weird looking children or weird looking elderly people. And I think Jimenez gets it.
Yeah, Jimenez gets it in a way that, like, I've seen some depictions of Aunt May where it's like, have you seen someone who's in retirement age? They don't look like that.
Yeah.
Where you've taken a 20-year-old woman and just added lines to the face. It's like that the human body doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah. And the colorist is doing a really good job of that too. Like, the coloring of Ted's hair is obviously an old man's hair. It's not that he's dyed his hair white. It's quite clear.
Yeah, that is that is just some natural graying for a man who's pushing 90 at this point.
Yeah.
with the help of Ian Couple, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Let's see what Mark Waid's going to be writing the new history of the DC universe.
I'm worried about that book, Ross. I'm really
Oh, I
worried.
am. But he did the Marvel one. It was so good. But I've heard a couple things that I'm worried. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Yeah, there's
The
one thing
60s
in
Legion
particular
are in
for me.
The second one, I'm like, are you really going to use the 60s Legion?
I'm like, look. We don't need Cyborg to be a founding member of the Justice League.
That's the one that bugs me.
Yeah,
That bugs me. But this bugs me because I don't. My problem with New 52 is that it was just so drastic, the changes, and some of them didn't work, and you had to fix them 2 years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm nervous.
The Scott Koblish covers though. Oh my! I need those in my veins now.
Yeah.
But to get back to the story, one thing I appreciate about this story from, I think it's page 4, is that Ted admits that he was a shit father. And I appreciate that honesty that Robinson gives that character. It's like, look, I was busy with other stuff. I'm lucky the mom was there until she wasn't. That's when things really got worse.
Yeah. I think I like that self-evaluation of I don't know what James Robinson, I don't know if he's got kids, if he's a father. But, I think a lot of he's Jack.
Yeah.
And, I think I like that Ted's always been a self-aware. And did Robinson create this version of Ted?
I don't think Ted was that self-aware before this book.
Robinson, do you think
no.
Starting Golden Age?
Yeah. I mean, it's been said, like, Robinson gave Ted more characterization in 4 issues than had been done in the previous ensuing decades, and it's like, it's not wrong.
No, I mean, I'm reading the Golden Age stuff, and he's a good Golden Age character, but it's that same note. I've got a secret identity. My girlfriend doesn't notice that the dude with the fin helmet with no mask is her boyfriend.
Right.
But Robinson added this, and I think everybody since I mean, Ted's dead, but when someone writes a Ted story, they touch on it again. And
yeah, I think this story talks to the fact that he wasn't always, this self-aware, because, Jack on the page 7 says, Dad was a playboy. He did the whole tuxedo club hopping thing back then, like that old William Powell movies. That was Dad.
And he was bored.
And that was that trope, wasn't it? Of playboy, superhero, playboy by day, superhero by night. He was just another one of those.
I mean, that's also Wesley Dodds to a T.
Yeah. But I get the William Powell thing because I really, that's kind of cool. I would be cool if my dad was that kind of dude, because I'm a big fan of those kind of characters in film. I love the Thin Man. I love William Powell. No wrong.
Oh, I can watch those all. I can watch all 7 of those.
Yeah. But reading the comic, the Golden Age comic, they grasp that, because I think the Starman Golden Age comic's above average compared to other ones I've read. I mean, the stories are still very simplistic, but the art's a little better quality. It's more consistent. Even when it goes to Emil Gershwin, it's just they're different styles, but it's. I like the fleshing out of Ted, but I like the fact that it's a dad who goes, "I didn't get it all right." I'm not a dad, but I'm assuming most dads have self-doubt. We all do. Did I make?
I'm sure my son would be sitting there talking to his hairdresser about me the same way Jack's talking to his tattooist. It's like,
everyone's a byproduct of their parents, and to every parent out there, you're trying your best and you're screwing up.
Yeah.
Just like your parents before you, the best you can do is make that a softer screw up.
Yeah. But I saw something, Damon Wayans be talking about having grandchildren, and he goes, "You get your grandchildren, or you get to treat them the way you should have treated your kids." And he said it in front of one of his kids, and his kid was like,
"Yeah."
So, but I like it.
Cool.
I'm
One of the other juxtapositions in this is the quality of the backgrounds in the Phil Jimenez panels,
Mhm.
and the amount of detail in that. In Ted's lab, the background scene where Jack's dressed up as a superhero is just so detailed. But whereas Weeks is more focused on the characters and what's happening in the scene rather than the backgrounds. But I don't
Yeah.
mind. I think it just creates more contrast.
I agree.
Yeah, and for me, it's not like Weeks is like doing blank backgrounds just to cheat. Like I've seen in Ross will talk about this tomorrow in some Fantastic Four stories where maybe the inker is erasing stuff. Here,
Oh
it's
yeah.
very pointed. And
Mm.
one thing I love is the inclusion is Jack's. There's a series of panels, and the first one is it's a young Jack fighting with a Ted, and Jack's got like not R2D2, but like one of the other like third tier Star Wars robots on his T-shirt. I always kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, the one from the Jawa.
Yes, that's
It's a
it.
trash can one. The
Yeah,
McDonald's trash can one.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Oh my God,
awesome.
that is probably exactly what they use.
It just looks like a 70s McDonald's trash can to me.
I think
Probably
those
what
panels,
they
the two flashback panels with Jack as a kid are awesome. Like I was like, I'm just looking at this kid who's tied a cape around his neck and he's holding onto a stick as if it's a Starman cosmic rod. And I'm just thinking, that was me. That was me at that age. I was throwing that cape around my neck and jumping off things I probably shouldn't have been jumping off.
we
Um,
played
don't
I
do
was a
that, kid.
kid with all the comic books, so I would make rules like we're gonna do Marvel, and they were like, what? So I would either be Hawkeye if we did Marvel or Green Arrow if we those are my favorite characters back then.
And I was a Ninja Turtle, and I had to be Leo. He was blue and had swords.
Did you have an eye mask?
Yes,
Scarf tied around your head?
yes.
Oh, I love it.
I had a friend.
Good.
It was either my mom or my dad had a friend make me a Captain Kirk shirt.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love the droid that he's got on his shirt because I would have had so many t-shirts in the 70s with iron-on transfers, and I can imagine how uncomfortable that t-shirt must have been that Jack's
oh
wearing
my
there.
God.
They were so stiff, and you put them in the washing machine and it would start peeling off. Or
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I had these ones in the late 70s that were there wasn't a natural fiber in them, but they had like skateboarders, like the photographs sewn into the material. And
Yeah.
in the summer, in the Virginia heat and humidity as a child, it was like having saran wrap being wrapped in saran wrap. Just
Did you
like,
ever have one of those lenticular ones? Like the rulers, that you move and the picture changes.
yeah,
We had those for a while too. They were like that sort of. They had more. If you looked at them on different angles, you got a different picture.
yeah. Well, I had a couple of those. We had some of those.
They were not
You could
nice.
get them. What I liked is they would come on the back of a cereal box.
Yeah.
And you would peel them off and then you would iron
Oh,
on your
that's
shirt. My
fun.
mother was like, Christ, this is going to dissolve in the wash. And, but
So fun.
Okay, I was curious how those actually, yeah, because
yeah,
I see those ads and when I'm going through old comics, I'm like, there's no way any of those designs lasted past the 10th wash,
no,
and
they
that's
did
probably
really,
being generous.
Kirby, they did some really weird thing on the back of cereal box. They had records that you could cut them out and put them on a record player and they would play.
Wow. Sorry, folks, for me to be the young one here, but wow.
Yeah. So I had one that did the
Should have
banana
said, "What's a
splits
record,
theme.
Kirby?"
Okay, I at least know the banana splits. God, give me that.
So, but what I like is we let's move on to the next panel. We got a full page of Ted in his lab, and I
Well,
love that
before you
panel.
do that, we better
Oh,
talk about the flashback where Ted and Jack are fighting, and
oh
it's
yeah.
the positions that they're in because they're
Hmm.
sort of like Jack's got his arm raised and the other one behind him, and Ted's sort of doing the same thing, and there's a red circle behind them, and that kind of that theme continues through the flashbacks as we move through.
I
So
destroyed that stupid scrapbook. I burned it. Just in that little teenage rebellion. just to hurt his dad's feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I like these next couple pages of Week's art. It's just it feels like a 40s comic, just a little better drawn than a lot.
Most, yeah.
Um, but it has very much like an Alex Toth kind of feel, or Alex Raymond kind of art. I feel. Um, and I
So,
like. Mhm.
oh, I was just gonna say, for the big splash page, I always kind of think that shadow as like Starman has overshadowed Ted. Am I right? Is that a good interpretation, or am I just dead wrong on that?
I'm not. Yeah, I think it's something like that on purpose because it's because the shadow is definitely pulling your focus.
Hmm.
So the only thing,
It's
I
sort of
mean,
gives you the impression he's flying up, like that he's rising and getting smaller.
that makes sense
Okay.
because he does fly. Ted did fly one-handed because remember because he's got to hold the rod. But
And again, nice that we've got a Weeks page and a Jimenez page facing each other here again.
Oh, maybe that's huh. Yeah, because the next page I'm looking is Sandra is him talking with Sandra. So wait, I guess I'm
no,
getting
Yeah, that's the one.
yeah,
Sorry,
that's
that's
when
the
when you
yeah,
get to after the conversation with Sandra, it
the one
ends.
after I'm talking about.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Now I'm with you.
yeah. You see Ted flying off as Starman in the bottom of one page, and then he's in the window talking to Sadie on the
Oh,
next page.
yep. And I love that little bird just flying through. It's like totally unnecessary, but it just adds such a nice like sense of
Oh yeah,
realism.
yeah,
Phil Jimenez loves to fill a page with beautiful things.
Hmm.
yeah. And he's even remembered to draw the shadow for the bird. He didn't have to, but he
Nope.
has. Yeah,
So,
it's very.
um, and what is it? Just so we don't skip it. Is like Robinson does a little like retcon and cleanup with like Professor Davis. Uh, to where it's like he said like Ted says Davis created it, but it was like Ted really did the heavy lifting, but wanted to downplay his own aspects of that.
Oh, the Sandra's device or his device?
His device, his
His device.
device.
No.
So,
Yeah, it's clever. And the fact that Jack knows that it's not just Ted telling that story, but he's actually paying attention to his dad
Yeah,
and
Jack
he's
knows more about his dad
secret.
than I think his dad knows he does.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
there's always that thing about you know, when you're a kid, you don't think your parents know what's going on in your head. And,
They,
and they do.
yeah.
They're not like, they're not surprised sometimes when you tell them something. You know, I think they're more aware of what's going on. I'm the fifth of six children. My parents could read as like, I've done this 4 other times. You're a moron.
yeah,
Yeah. But I also like that when he goes full punk rock, and Ted gets a little more old professory. As he's getting older, I just think the juxtaposition of their styles, him as the punk and Ted there with his suspenders and
yeah. It's really interesting here as well. Sadie sort of says to Ted, it must have really hurt when Jack destroyed your scrapbook. And then asks him, do you have one of Jack's adventures? And he's like, no, I never kept one. It's this sort of covering. Like there's a bit of
Mm-hmm.
they're both doing things like Jack's actually remembering all the details about his dad, and Ted's kind of like, no, I'm not really following my son's exploits. It's like I'm just letting him do his own thing, and it's
I'm
kind
too
of like,
much I'm too much the scientist. Yeah, and it's like, dude, why are you lot? Well, I guess how long has Sadie really talked to Ted that much at this point?
well, she says she hasn't at the
Yeah.
opening.
yeah, that she's come here
I'll
to
find
talk
it.
that and see, this is what the placement of this story, I'm a little confused because in the book it goes right before this the Shazam team up.
Yeah,
But in the app, And what I like about the DC app, annuals and Secret Files are placed with the book where it should be read, and they have it after the issue after the Shazam team up. Like, she tells him there's the team up, there's that Shade and Matt story, then the Secret Files, and then the time's passed. So I think it makes more sense where it is that she's just told him.
Okay.
But Jack doesn't seem that, that issue where she tells him who she is ends with them in silence. So maybe she's gone to Ted to kind of learn more about Jack because she knows she's hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
They don't say that in this, but you know what I mean? Because if it goes here, it makes more sense. I think it either goes right before she tells him or right here. And she's just getting more information about Jack. And she probably knows a lot about Jack because the way they write, what they talked about their relationship originally in the issue where she tells him that it's a true connection. They really care. So is she just, is John, I don't know why Robinson doesn't touch on that conversation in this one, because this story doesn't feel just like an information dump.
No. That's one of those things where I have to wonder if just because I wasn't reading these when they were coming out, were Secret Files, like, I had to imagine they had to be a little, like, entry points, standalone almost.
Yeah,
So
they're an advertisement. Yeah.
Okay, so you couldn't get super into the plot detail.
No. They were, they were an advertisement. They were a way to entice you, I think, to buy an event, because a lot of them are events driven.
Right.
Like War of Wars and stuff like that.
Oh, I just bought that.
Yeah. And stuff like that. So I don't know. I just find that, why is Sadie here? And I don't want her to just be here to be a plot device so Ted has someone to tell.
I think they're trying to give us history of these two characters, which is kind of a Secret Files thing of here's some info about your characters. But Robinson is making such a tightly woven epic that he's also using this as an opportunity to add to the story. So he's bringing in, and we get to see this great scene, which you started to discuss there, Ross, which is Jack as a punk and how he went through this punk era. And it's just like, I love this panel with him wearing his UK flag sleeveless t-shirt, and he's got surrounded by all these punks, and there's nose rings and dreadlocks and mohawks everywhere, and then Jack gets a mohawk, and it's cool it's a really cool panel. And then you see him with that haircut meeting his dad in the next panel. It's kind of like, and it's really interesting if you just flip between those two pages, and they're both right-hand pages in the original comic, and the red circles appeared again, and Jack's sort of having a standoff with Ted, and Jack's arm hasn't moved, his left arm hasn't moved, but his right arm is moving towards Ted, and it's still in a fist. And Ted's arms he was kind of looking a bit aggressive in the earlier one with the younger Jack, but he's kind of moved both his arms onto his hips, and now he's kind of leaning over him, being condescending, or sort of, dressing him down.
Yeah.
And, it's just really clever by Jimenez to sort of almost animate those panels. Like you can almost imagine this animated and transforming and aging. Yeah. Like Ted's leaning over a bit more. He's clearly older. He's not got his gray hair yet, but he's got his glasses now. That I know.
And there's also both. He's also not as dapper. The clothes are a little more less fitting. The first time he's in a suit and tie, he was a playboy. Then he's in a suit and tie. By the one where Jack's the punk rocker, He's got a shirt that's not kind of tucked in properly. He's wearing suspenders. Stuff doesn't
The
fit as
buttons
well.
not done up on the shirt. Like the detail in Jimenez is just so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, short of Perez, I mean, Jimenez and Perez, like they're in the same caliber of detail when you go into panels. So that to me is never a surprise, and it's to me, it's like Ted's the sort of guy who doesn't buy a new shirt unless it disintegrates into the wash. So it's like this is the same shirt he had in the previous panel. It's just, he's lost weight since then.
That sounds like me. My wife was like, "How long have you had that shirt?" And I'll go 20 years. Throw it out.
Trust me, I've had some arguments with that myself.
Yeah.
So you're not alone.
Yeah. I'm not looking at Ted now, and I hit 60 and I've dropped a bunch of weight in the last 3 years, and like stuff doesn't fit. I've gotten really skinny, and it's like, oh shit. But I like it.
Yeah.
I like him in the bedroom, his punk rock. Just the whole thing, the aesthetic. You're seeing that transformation. I just don't know. These are so real transformations, because this was written in 98. So they're going, say this was 10 or 15 years ago. So in the late, whenever the punk rock era was, I mean, there was still punk rock in 80s in Richmond. We had a punk scene, and I would go to clubs and drink, and friends would go see the punk bands. I was just going to go and watch the people mosh, dive and, crowd surf, and bang into each other. But I definitely had that kind of crashed out single 20-year-old mattress on the floor. All my crap, mine would have been comic books and science fiction novels, or Doctor Who novels, probably at that point. Stuff like that, all scattered around.
Let's talk about some of the things that are around this mattress, because it's there's so much detail in terms.
There's a Sid and Nancy print poster on the bed.
Yeah. There's a little lamp that's kind of like a genie, it looks like, sort of holding up the lamp.
Right, which to me is always good for like showing like the Jack that we will know is there already, and it's just him in that phase. Because
childhood things like the vacuum cleaner, the sort of retro vacuum cleaner.
Cool. Yep,
one of the little round ones. Yeah.
He's got the Gumby figure.
He's got a water pistol.
Yeah, his childhood stuff is still there too. Like he's like that sort of young adult that hasn't thrown out their toys kind of thing.
Mm.
Which I was a bit like that. I kept some of I think I had my Battlestar Galactica toys for quite a long time. What is that, Captain Carrot there?
Yeah, that's my Captain Carrot.
Yeah.
I lucked out in finding the variant with the original coloring.
Is that the one I got?
Yeah, that's the one you got.
Okay, I got one too because I could not pass it up. And I'm Googling, and I found it. It does exist. In the bottom, the Jan Murray board game.
Yep.
Wow.
I'm looking at it right now. Jan Murray's TV word game. I will be posting this, I think.
Was there a little golden book called Rudd and Rexy, or is that something else?
Ooh, I believe, just as a side note, just because we did bring in some in the first recording, golden books I love giving to my nephew because it's like, oh, I can give you Jaws, Alien, Planet of the Apes.
My wife bought me the Hawkeye one for a gift one year.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
I just had ones like the little train that could.
Yeah, same.
Mine were not as exciting as those.
No. Yeah.
I must say, looking at this image, you can tell Phil Jimenez has drawn it. I met Phil at Comic-Con in 2012 at a panel where he was talking about gay and lesbian characters and creators in comics, and he was there with some creators from other companies. This scene of having this topless Jack in there is clearly some, I don't know, sexploitation of Jack by Phil Jimenez. Like his abs are just totally ripped. Like he's really buff here. And I also think it's strange. At first I thought he only had one leg. But,
yeah, I'm looking at that. How are you laying like that? That seems
he's an amputee,
really.
But no, he's not. He's I think it's supposed to be up in the air.
Yeah.
It's a bit hard.
Oh, yeah, because it's like one of it's like one's like fully bent, and I don't, that's yeah. Because you see the boot knocked off on one of them.
Yeah, but I think the colorist is part of the problem because it looks like the shadow behind his leg is the same brown as the boot, and it's kind of like he's got three boots. Then
Yeah,
it's like I think maybe we could say it's his brown socks, but
yeah. Let's
I
go with
think that was a
that.
bit confusing.
Ugh.
Yeah, I certainly had friends in that punk era that were wearing Doc Marten boots. There's no question.
Yeah.
I,
And he has 100% just the Sid Vicious neck lock chain, or however you want to phrase that.
yeah.
Actually, now that I look at it, he's not wearing boots on the bed. That's actually a shoe.
Yeah. The
The
boot
laces
is
are
separate.
off. So maybe
Oh,
he has these shoes on the bed, which would fit with Jack as well, right? With young
yeah.
Jack. Yeah, I'll put my shoes on the bed. I don't care what you say. Yeah.
It, and you just know exactly how awful that room smells just looking at
Yeah.
this
Oh yeah.
picture.
Oh yeah. And the rotten apples that are under the cupboards, you know.
Oh,
That's good. I also love the fact that he's kind of upside down on the bed, like in relation to the way all the other characters are in this story. Like he's the wrong way up, which I think is kind of also saying he was upside down at this time in his life. You know.
well, yeah, that's it. That chaos. Um, and then we see him getting we go back to Ted and Sadie, and we find out the time that he had to be brought home by one of the Adaires. Well, by Billy.
Yeah, because Jack broke into a pharmacy, so yeah, like Ted even says, it's like I don't know for what, but we can pretty easily guess. Just some
Yeah.
uppers and downers, and things that make you go sideways.
Yeah,
We've got another one of these scenes with a sort of a Ted flying up above shadowy buildings as well, and a really tiny Ted, and that kind of relates back to that Weeks panel and it's actually the interesting thing about this little group of pages is that Weeks draws, I think it's 3 pages, and then Jimenez draws 3 pages, and both sets of 3 pages have got lots of panels, but 2 of the pages have got full spreads. So the Ted Jack on the bed is a full page, and Ted in the observatory is a full page. And I think this plotting is super clever for the way this book's been laid out.
oh yeah, I like this. And the page after where catches us up on other Starmen, and this is I love these panels. Phil Jimenez, he can put so much in a page. I don't know how he gets his work done because there's so much detail.
Yeah, I love the little coffee machine down the bottom.
That
I had one of those. I think there's a lot of those out there in the world, perhaps on dumps now. Yeah.
I definitely bought one of those
I had one in
from
my dorm room.
Goodwill.
Yeah, I had one in my dorm room like that because we could only have a certain size one when I was in college in
Yeah.
the 80s. It was just
Yeah.
like that. What I like,
I think I said this last time we recorded, but I was very disappointed by the disco balls, and because they're sitting next to Michael, the disco star man, they
yeah,
fit, but they also just kind of look like orbs or lights, or they could be the moon. Or I think for someone, I'm sure that Phil Jimenez spent a lot of time in nightclubs.
yeah,
Um, I'm surprised he didn't draw a better disco ball. It's
yeah,
hard to draw a sphere. I get that, but
yeah. I worked
Yeah.
in a gay after hours club for a few years as a bartender because the theater I worked with was in their space. And every play we did for this theater company, Richmond Triangle Players, we had the artistic director would like he'd put a disco ball in. It's like, dude, why? I want stars. Whatever, dude. Can't have a
yeah,
Christmas.
it's
We can't have
interesting.
a can't have a
I
disco
follow
ball
Phil
and
on.
everything.
No, you
Um,
can't. Do you follow Phil on social media?
a little bit, yeah,
Yeah, he's like the reverse Jack in a way. Like he started out pretty white bread. He's getting wilder by the minute. Like he's turning into a big old gay bear. and
Oh, good
he's
goodness.
not afraid to share his leather fetish. Let's just
Okay.
say he's. I'm going to think of him as reverse Jack
Oh,
now on.
All
What I,
right. All right.
what I like on that page, what I like is that they have Michael looks like Vosberg drew it a little bit, and the Prince Gavin Starman looks like it could be either Starlin or Ditko. And
Yeah.
the Starman of 1951 is a mystery. He's in shadow. You don't really.
Almost retro style, you'd say. Too.
Yeah,
Like,
it's. I
Yeah.
mean, because
almost retro.
the,
The Starman, it reminds me of the Starman from Crisis on Infinite Earths. Actually, I feel like it's very reminiscent of the Perez one,
oh,
which
it
I
is
think
like the one where he dies, the panel where he dies.
yeah, he's not in Crisis very much.
Is he just in the strip? Isn't he on the strip at the bottom? No, he's at. You see
that's
him die.
that's after he's died. I think we
Yeah,
do
that's
see
after he died.
one of
Yeah.
the fallen heroes. I think
Uh,
he's in. Is he in History of the DC Universe, the first one?
yeah, very briefly. Yeah, he's got a panel that might. I. No, that's in the other room. But
And of course, Perez would have modeled it off Ditko.
Oh yeah.
No question.
I do like that uh that Ted refers to Gavin as like a rumor because yeah, the only way Ted would have even possibly heard is like secondhand from like Hal Jordan, who heard it secondhand at one of the JLA JSA meetups. So
didn't he? But he dies in a team up with Superman.
yes,
Yeah.
does he die in it?
Is that his last appearance? Yeah, his last appearance.
Yeah,
is in
no, I
DC
think you're right.
Comics
You're right. You're
Presents.
right.
It's one of the Ween Starlin issues.
Yep. I
Is
got
that-
it right over there. I
Oh
just
no, it was Levitz. It was Levitz. Never mind, it wasn't Ween. It was Levitz. Levitz wrote it. He wrote every appearance of Gavin, Prince Gavin.
I'm sure he dies in Crisis.
Oh yeah, he dies in Crisis, but his last adventure. I'm sorry, his last
Last
adventure is
Yeah.
in DC Comics Presents.
I think the Will Payton Starman image. I get that he had a new costume now, but I wish he'd been in the purple and yellow one.
I do because I don't.
Yeah.
I really don't. I actually prefer the purple and yellow.
I don't know, like the purple and yellow was so like some of the artists knew how to draw it at that weird angle and some didn't. So it's like I don't know, I'll almost take the consistency of the black and red one.
I think
But-
it's disappointing that the face on this Will Payton as well, like
Oh yeah, no, that's
It doesn't look like
doesn't
Will.
look like him.
and you know, you should have the white eyeballs, like you can't tell. Like it would have been really nice to have them colored white.
He needs the mullet.
Yeah.
He needs the mullet. At least his is a tasteful, small, little mullet. It's not like Superman mullet, which I do like Superman mullet. I don't know why, but I do.
The flashback Jack here painting, you can see his evolution. Like he's no longer a punk, he's become more retro focused. He's got lots of antiques and he's listening to Elvis and he's got fluffy dice and he's a bit more of a thespian in a way. Like he's more artistic.
Yeah, this panel hurt because it's like I felt directly attacked just by the painting and all of that with it. It's like, okay, fine. I mean, you're 100% right, but you don't have to say it.
I like that he yeah, it's as he's getting older.
Between Jack and Ted, between those two panels, the left and the right one on page 15 as well.
They're
It's
both
like,
leaning the same position.
both
Yeah.
leaning the same way. The body language. This is like you can't help but inherit stuff from your parents. Like
Oh,
kids, where I work with a lot of kids, and then I watch them walk into the schoolyard with their parents. And this kid's got a weird walk, and so does the father. And it's like you just learn to walk that way. It's
Yeah.
like
yeah, it's weird. It's like growing up, like people would say, my brothers would go, "You don't look like dad. You're not like dad at all." And it's like, and then we found the picture of him from 1951, and it was like, "Oh shit, you're his clone." And I have a little bit of my dad's New York in him sometimes, the way I talk and the way I hold my head and the way I can be incredibly blunt and rude when I'm talking to someone who's being rude to somebody. Like I will be I will insert myself. Go, hey, don't talk to them that way. You're being a dick. Be a little, but it's kind of like you have to.
Mm.
I hear my brother Bill speak, and then I hear myself when I'm recording and go, damn it, I don't sound like him, do I? Yeah, I do. And I grew up in the South, but my dad was from Brooklyn, so my friends were like, "You don't have much of a set." No, that wouldn't have been acceptable.
No. If you want to know what how my dad talks, Ross, just
Mhm.
listen to me.
I-
The speech patterns are almost like to a T. Where I was visiting my aunt and uncle, and the uncle asked me a question. I don't even remember why I responded. It's like, Jesus, you sound like your father. And it's like, oh yeah, can't do
yeah,
anything about that now.
yeah,
It's a feature, not a bug.
yeah. My wife likes to remind me when I'm acting like my mother, which is not a nice thing. So you're acting like Mary Lawrence. Oh shit. But we do pick it up, and I like it. I mean, the detail that he does to and they look more alike. I think,
Yeah, they do. They do,
especially
absolutely.
in
In
these
the
two
two panels.
panels, they look much more alike than they do other times.
Yeah. I love the reflection in the coffee pot of like I'm guessing it's Sadie. And just the distortion that Jimenez puts into that because clearly
Yeah.
it's surface. It's cool.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be even and it wouldn't be super clear. Because I think that's the problem you see a lot with like people trying to do like a mirror reflection. It's like, no, it's not a photocopy. Like I'm looking, I can see my reflection in a monitor. It's like, no, it's black. It's a little distorted. It's not 100%, guys.
Absolutely.
I like how when we move, we got another blackboard on the next page. Lee Weeks is a
Yeah.
flashback. It's 50s lab and the cosmic rod. Um, I like that we get these
I
little
think I was
details.
looking for Johnny Quick's formula on this blackboard, but I didn't find
Yeah.
it.
I wouldn't be surprised. Wait a minute, is that up top? Wait a minute.
Wait.
Upper right hand corner. I can at least expand mine because I'm on the tab. Is it 3x by
It's 3x plus 5/8 times 6. So not exactly, but it's dang close.
Yeah.
um
And again, to where we were saying of yeah, Ted looks a lot like Jack in this flashback here.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
he's got that loose curl that Jack
Hmm.
had it earlier on. Yeah. Um one little detail is like this conversation that we need the discussion um
Oh,
Professor
the
about
Bates.
the other guy,
tattoo.
some other customer's tattoo. Is Robinson just showing off what he knows about art, or just putting another layer to the kind of Jack
Both.
hangs out with more, so they have similar tastes and conversations about similar things. I just find it the layers of stuff that Robinson is putting in.
I reckon he's just reliving his own like tattoo
Oh.
experience. The guy's in the middle of doing, his shoulder, and he just goes off and starts making phone calls. It's like,
Yeah,
Oh, I took that as like him hearing the phone call and just had to stop midway just so he could answer it or whatever. Because
it's
but
the
yeah, I
only
think
one
it's
that
just a great a little spice of spice of realism to it because you're gonna have these little breaks in conversation. It's just gonna happen.
yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, I
oh,
like
I know exactly that Rousseau painting that he's talking about, so I appreciate that as well.
yeah.
um, I do like when we get to see the Golden Age characters, where he talks about um, Crimson Avenger, Green Lantern, Sandman, Flash. I do like that Flash costume with the lightning bolts on the legs
Mm-hmm.
and the yellow belt.
Yeah, and seeing the Crimson Avenger, I think it's a great callback. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wasn't he in Action Comics #1
Did
or
they put
earlier?
who? Oh no, Detective 20, because I have a file. I got a yeah, I read it. I actually read it the other day, just the other day. His first appearance is Action is Detective Comics 20.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so cool.
It's not a very
I
good. The
think
file I got is it's not a good scan, but it was neat to kind of see him in the hat and the cape. It's a good costume.
yeah,
It's a
it?
good
yeah.
costume. Um,
And is that
There's
why
a-
they did him in his like later costume? So like he and Sandman couldn't be easily mistaken,
I
you
think
know?
it was more the transition into a more superhero kind of suit and gave him a
Okay.
side when they gave him a sidekick. The same thing they did with Sandman. They took him
Right,
out of
right.
the when they gave him
Oh,
a sidekick, they had to give him a costume.
okay. I actually just meant like in this panel is like, you
yeah.
know, and one.
Interestingly, Sandman's not in that costume though, and it's almost like they're in their latest costume because I reckon Phantom Lady there, she's wearing her really modern goggles. Like they're the most recent version that we'd seen of
Yeah,
that.
I didn't even
Yeah.
notice that the goggles weren't just the mask.
Yeah,
Yep.
and she's got that
Because
big
because
bouffant hair
because
as well.
Sandman does go back to the suit right after Kirby leaves. Jack
He
Kirby
does.
stops drawing it. He goes right back to the suit, doesn't he?
He's
Or does
back
he
in the
get
suit in
canceled?
Justice League, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
Or does the Sandman run end when Kirby stopped? I'm not that
Well,
familiar with Golden Age
certainly
Sandman.
in anything post 80s, he's wearing the suit and the gas gun.
Yeah, but I'm talking in the Golden Age. Did he ever go back to the gas mask?
Ooh.
I don't
Hmm.
know.
Roy
Uh,
Thomas wrote a story about it.
it probably did.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I can almost find the issue of Paul Story did.
it's all yeah. He liked it. Yeah. Let me
There
tell
or
you what.
Secret Files and Origins.
Oh,
I wa-
Uh,
um,
One
and I
thing I
do.
like.
Mhm. Go
It,
ahead.
it's just in this issue they talk of like how Sandra Knight, she is a Betty Page equivalent in the DC universe. I like how they touched on this like Morris
Oh,
tattooed Jack's Grant whatever relation like on various people's backs, and it's like yep, nope, that makes total sense
yeah.
that happens.
That's my dad's cousin.
Yeah, hey, Betty Page has got a family. Yep, people.
Mm,
It's part of life. It happens.
mm.
It's
I like
funny
to
though.
think.
I reckon my hairdresser knows more about my love life and all the people I've been dating than many other people in my life. Actually, I share quite a lot with her, and she actually knows to ask, and then I'll tell her. And I know a lot about her relationship as well. It's funny. So
I think we
it's
all have that. Mine was
Yeah.
I don't have a hairdresser anymore. It's a moot point. But there was a woman I worked with who worked. I ran a coffee shop in the hospital, and the cashier's office was behind me and her. She knows more about my life. She's met my wife because I've known her for years. But we will like when I'd go to get change, we would talk about our days and weird things. And there's that random person in your life where you share stuff with. It's just they're not a friend. I mean, they are a friend, but they're not like someone you go out and have drinks with or
yeah, it's
um.
true. It's true. I like the next page. We've got a Lee Weeks Starman up above Opal City.
So gorgeous.
It's
Yep.
kind of like those shadowy scenes we were talking about before, where he's flying up, but now it's from his perspective, and this is him up above Opal, watching and surveilling everything. Um, I kind of like that change in perspective from the viewer is almost now him, like it's
And
what
we
he
get to
sees.
see him be heroic. We get to
Hmm.
see this is that we haven't really seen him in action.
We've seen him, yeah, sitting around in the observatory or talking about Jack or arguing with Jack. Yeah, exactly. Being a dad.
I'm glad they put him with Dr. Droog. I like, and then they make fun of the name.
I thought that was Hungarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have it. He only had three returning villains. No, Droog was only once, and it was the Mist and I can't remember the other one. I feel stupid. I can't remember it. But
Big
yeah,
King Cray.
Sorrow that's
I think
mentioned
so.
here. Well,
Maybe.
Johnny Sorrow, clearly Jeff Johns picked up as a big player in
Oh
his
yeah.
day.
Well, he was a one and done because most Golden Age characters, other than Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman, didn't have reoccurring villains.
Well, comics were seen as disposable. I think, we were talking about Jim Shooter the other day on my podcast, Tomorrow's Heroes Today. And when Jim came into the Legion, it was like, as a writer, he was a kid who'd been reading comics that were disposable. and he suddenly came in and wrote these connected two-part stories, and the characters had romances and things. You know, he built this whole mythos that kind of kicked that off with the Legion. And because he as a kid knew that actually, no, I'm hanging on to all of these comics. They're all sitting in a box under my bed, but I know these stories. And whereas, you know, the early stories, you know, I think when we talked about Starman, Ross, that, you know, that they'd recycle the storylines even. Like
It's yeah, you're
plot would be the same. You know, they
one.
change the name of the character or
You're right, because even if like I love the Legion, I have a real soft spot for that early Legion, especially the John Forte when they start to do, but the plot was the same over and over and over again. You know, one of the Legionnaires knows a secret and does something sneaky in the background, you know, whatever. But the same with he's battling gangsters or a mad scientist, and they're not that different. I mean, I say this a lot. It's a lot of Golden Age stuff is disposable, and a lot of it is rushed because they were to make a living. You had to pump out pages. You know, you and it wasn't when you Bob Kane. It wasn't Bob Kane. It was Bob Kane and Bill Finger and other people to make a Batman comic. It took a group of people to do it to get it out so fast. And I think some books are better than there's some that were if I look at an early all-star comic with Justice Society, the art is up and down very, but if I look at a Seven Soldiers of Victory and Leading Comics, the quality's a little more even between the artists.
Or Jack Cole on Plastic Man, which is just chef's kiss.
And I think Jack Burnley's a little bit above. I think definitely think Emil Gershwin in the later Starman is beautiful, but I'm reading the Golden Age Green Arrow, and it's George Papp. And as he get close to the war, his art changes. It gets rushed, and it doesn't look as good as it did. And then he's off the book for 4 years, or 2 or 3 years, because he's in Europe. I think he's in Europe. I looked it up.
Jack Kirby, even his stuff could be wildly uneven in the 40s. It just is what it is.
Yeah, but it is. But I like these panels. So Lee Weeks has had up through when we get to the page with Dr. Trug, I don't feel like, I think he's moved. Even though he's showing a 40s piece, it doesn't look as Golden Age as I think some of the art looked earlier.
Even compared to the opposite page, this looks a little more marked, because to me, when I'm thinking 40s art, I don't think you're seeing every rib, or every ab in the art, which you're getting a little more of when he's fighting Dr. Droog, but still a good shot, especially with him like catching lightning or whatever it is on the top of the building.
I love that. I love that panel. I just like seeing Ted in action.
In the book, still, even we're on page 20 now of 1920, and like it's still very dark and shadowy, and it's kind of like it's a bit like a therapy session. This story, it's like they're both getting therapy from Sadie or from the tattoo artist, but they're kind of processing their own stuff. Actually, they're kind of working their own way through their own history. I think it's a real turning point story, this one, in the whole opus. I think it's a moment where both of them are kind of recognizing their own part in what they've played and what's happened, and kind of owning their own stuff a bit. So I think
because their relationship it doesn't go backwards at all after this. It really, they're more on the same page. And Jack is this is the point where I tell people about the series is what makes it good is he doesn't want to be a hero, but he has to be a hero. He keeps being the hero, even though it's not what he wanted to do. Then he starts to like it.
Yeah.
And he becomes comfortable, and then he has to go on this quest. And it's Campbell. He got to go on the hero's journey.
This issue, it to me is like the entire emotional linchpin of all of the entire saga of Jack Knight is, because I mean, a large part of the series is, Jack, as you said, the hero's journey. It's coming to terms with his father and his relationship. It's not really a shock that it's not long after Ted dies that the series ends. Because if it had, obviously, I think that was the plan, but it had to say it continued for another year or two past Ted's death, it would not have been the same thing. You know,
Yeah. And after Ted's death, it's just the one arc, right? It's the Grand
yeah, it's not
Guignol. He
long.
dies, and then it's the Grand Guignol, and that takes.
Oh no, I think he dies at the end of Grand Guignol, and then
Does
it's
he?
like you do a
Okay.
flash, the last David story, and then it's only like 6 issues, if that, after his
Is it?
death.
Okay. It's see, I've been very good about not reading ahead, and I hadn't reread this in a while, which is nice. But sometimes I do want to just kind of plow through and get ahead. But I kind of like going into these fresh, as fresh as I can.
What's
And
really
I've not
interesting.
read the ending, but like 2 times. Where the early stuff I'd read it about once a year.
Mm.
As something as one trade would come out, I would, because I would replace my floppies for trades. I was at that point. It's like I've got to condense stuff because I'm
Yeah.
running out of space.
It must have been interesting as a subscriber, and there were subscribers back in those days with
Mhm.
DC Books. You wouldn't have got this. It wouldn't have been in your subscription. And so, for such a pivotal linchpin story, some people
It's a
must have
bold
really,
move, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bold move.
yeah.
Um, but I was one of those people. I bought the ones that I didn't even read the book
Hmm.
because I was the one that got those early index books for
The
Marvel.
director of the DCU and
Yeah.
Boom.
I had
Yeah.
those, yeah, but I've got and even went bought some a couple of years during the pandemic to get the Avengers one that I used to have and the FF and the X-Men one. Um, and I have my Legion one. What's the company? I used it when I was doing the early Legion thing because it had better information. Um,
It was vital. If you've ever read 5 Years Later and you didn't have the Who's Who in the Legion,
I'm so glad that I'm
the old
so
comic, you were in trouble. The only reason I could read 5 Years Later was because I had that Who's Who.
that's the greatest who's who too.
And I'm like, Stig
Yes.
R, who's Stig R? I better go back looking. And it's like leafing through my Who's Who to try and work out who it was. I
I
didn't
was
read
so
any of
happy they put
the
that in the
Legion stuff,
second
but
Who's Who volume omnibus.
Uh,
It was like, thank you for doing that.
yep.
yeah.
Um, I like how we get Jack. Um,
We're Morris is kind of going through all the cliches of like freak accident, great power comes great responsibility, but it's like, no, your dad did it just because he thought it was the right thing. And Jack says, "You calling my dad a hero? A true hero? I guess." I'm not arguing. And it's like, yeah, no,
I like
that's
I like that. Jack's proud of his pops.
yeah.
I like
But
that.
he
Of
won't say it to his dad.
No.
course not.
He'll say it to a stranger, but he's not saying it to his dad.
No,
Not yet. Not yet.
no. I have that. I understand that one. My dad. Me and my dad were not always tight, but late in life, I was like going, you know what? I got lucky because my dad's a good guy. you know. But I don't think I ever told him until he may not have understood it
Yeah.
or remembered it 5 minutes later. Um, I like it. Okay, this is the JSA fan. I've read, and I don't think I mentioned this when we recorded this before. We get to see them when they're battling Surtur at Ragnarok. I read that
Yeah.
once when they did it, and I was like going, this is the worst way to get rid of these characters. So I've never really reread it.
Yeah, I'll admit, like I when we were recording this again the first time, and sorry folks, the the Phantom episode, but it's like I forgot that like Power Girl and Star Spangled Kid were in that because
Mhm.
like it came out like right as like JLE was hidden, and I'm like I know for a fact Power Girl's in that, and it's like ugh.
Yeah. Um,
And Doctor Fate, now that I think about it too, what the heck? Yeah, no, that just I get that. Again, this is me looking back. Is in the late '80s we don't want these octogenarian heroes because that's not cool and hip, but it's like there's better ways to put them off the table than this.
Yeah. I do like this panel. It's better than the art in the original.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that was one of the issues with that series. The art was not as good as it could have been.
But, Roy really had I think it was Gustafson, was it?
Uh,
But I'm not sure. But he had a habit of picking. He used that guy a lot. He used him a lot, but he would give sometimes he would get bad inkers.
Yeah. What I like about this panel, I think first of all, I'd love to own this artwork.
Yeah.
I would love to have this piece hanging on
Yeah.
the wall. I love the fact that we often see Surtur, which is the fiery creature there, portrayed when this flashback happens. But the fact that he's include Fenrir the wolf and Jorgmanda the world serpent is great. Like I think he's really gone all out on the Norse mythology, which is really cool. And I reckon every JSA looks amazing in this. Like,
oh,
you're seeing their powers, which is great.
Yeah.
yeah. Unfortunately, that does kind of mean Wildcat just kind of in Alpred are just kind of standing around though, because
Yeah. What are we gonna do? Well,
we,
does he have atomic powers at that point?
I think by that point, story wise, definitely.
We recently did a JSA Pro podcast with the Legion of Substitute podcasters, and we did the JLA JSA crossover with Legion. And there's some very similar panels in there where Batman's just kind of like he's fighting Mordru as this giant Mordru, and it's just kind of like, what's Batman doing there? It's kind of like he can't do anything against this thing. It's like it's kind of like, yeah, they just got dragged on for the ride.
Let's see. Last Days of the Justice Society special, penciled by David Ross, inked by Mike Gustovich.
Okay, that's okay. I got it kind of right.
Yeah.
He was the inker, but because they ended up working on his West Coast Avengers with him when he did West Coast at the end of that run.
I still work on the West Coast, my West Coast epic read from Ross.
It's actually not bad. It's not
they
bad.
need to release Volume 3, but that's for a discussion for another episode.
Yeah. But then we get it. What
before we move
Phil
on,
gets
Ross,
to do
probably mention that the latest JSA series has Lemire has them meeting the it's called Ragnarok, so it's a kind of a parallel to this story of the last days of the Justice Society. So and it's interesting you mentioned Wildcat. I won't say anymore.
I already got spoiled thanks to the internet.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
say la vie.
I can't go to the comic shop till next Friday when I get paid. So I like Phil gets to show us in what happened in 0 Hour, the extent, and then the death of David. I like that it's almost an exact copy of the panel where David dies on that split in that panel, that page in issue 0.
Yeah, and this is kind of the part where it feels the most like almost textbook history of the whole piece, but it's like even then it's still woven in perfectly. To where it's like, how the heck is this guy who was born in like what 1910 charitably still around and kicking in 1995 or 90 whatever. So, and yeah, Ian Karkull, who is the scourge of all of DC's who's who Justice Society entries.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's like it's interesting in the flashback circle scene. We've got another one there with Ted and Jack facing off in the same sort of poses. Ted's gone grey, but he actually, if you look at the previous one and you look at this one, he was wearing glasses in the previous one, and in this one he's no longer wearing glasses, and he almost looks younger. I would say
definitely
he fits the shirt better. The shirt's not baggy anymore. He's got some muscle, you'd say, and it is that whole they've come back from Ragnarok and he's kind of revitalized.
Yeah, didn't they come back and they were a little bit younger, and that went into the Paraback series?
Well, no, the Paraback series they were actually portrayed as older. So
that's right.
they were balding, and Alfred had a mustache, and so yeah, it was kind of
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, geez.
interesting. But don't worry, it doesn't last long. 2 panels later, he's looking really old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And then we
who
get
was it
that
that
hero shot at
died
Jack.
in 0 Hour? I can't remember which JSA members died.
It was okay. Our Man originally, until that got retconned during the John's JSA. It was Al Pratt and the original Dr. Min. I think those were the only three casualties during
No,
0 Hour.
Wesley had a heart attack, but he survived. But he was
Mm,
frail.
Right. And then he died in the first issue of JSA, I think.
Yeah.
He commits suicide.
Was it? Okay.
He jumps off.
Yeah.
He needs to pass the visions off. That's how he hands the visions off to Sandy. He has to be dead.
Right. Yep.
He has a conversation with the gray man on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And he needs Sandy to have the visions. And that gets mentioned a little bit when Jack meets him.
Yeah, it's interesting because they've drawn him older in that panel, and like clearly he does look older. Like his costume looks like it doesn't fit him properly anymore in the one with Exton. But in the next panel he says a couple of us died, not three of us. And myself, Jay, and Ted, we were the only three who remained partially younger. So it's kind of a bit timey-wimey, all of this.
Yeah, because like Alan Scott's agent got weird with like the Starheart or whatever, and
yeah.
Well, that wasn't even the weirdest thing when his body became a lantern.
Oh God, yeah. And
the weirdest thing was Hal Jordan dating Arissa. That was the weirdest thing.
Wasn't she a child and then she wasn't a child?
And she aged up to fall in love with him so that he would go out with her.
Ew.
Yeah, gross. Sorry, look, guys. There were better ways to handle that, and the best way was like not do it at all. Second best way was just never mention it again.
Yeah.
So we get Jack in his hero shot. I love that. I would have loved to seen George Perez draw Jack.
Yeah.
Just once.
As a Hawaiian shirt connoisseur, that is an awesome Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, I like a weird Hawaiian shirt. My wife gets me nice ones. I got one with animal on it, one with dinosaurs, one with Star Wars ships.
Yeah. Again, that's a Wikipedia page.
The two panels where they're above the city. So you've got Jack above the city, and you've got Ted above the city. They're both being the hero over Opal, but they're doing it in a very different way. So like Ted's almost like patrolling and just watching, surveilling. Jack's
there's an elegance to Ted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And where Jax is raw.
Kind of subtle, whereas the new rod, it's like it's ready for action. Like he's charging in sort of Geronimo styles or whatever's going on in front of him. Like
what I like about what they've done with everybody who's had the staff or the belt, that Jack used the staff one way, but when Courtney gets it, she uses it a totally different way.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's like, I can balance on this. And Jack never does that. She uses it as a surfboard.
Yeah.
And I mean, I kind of like that, because she really Johns really makes her, she's the new Starman. And I think why I hope Lemire uses her at some point. I know he's probably not, because I don't know why he would, but I would love to see his take on her and some of the other younger characters.
I gotta imagine he's just kind of like, I don't want to throw everything all at once. Let's Justice Society has a huge cast, short of Legion.
Yeah. Well, he's got a plan. The first arc is a year. He's already said that straight up.
Oh, okay.
First arc is a year.
And you guys haven't read the latest issue, but he takes 3 of them off the table. So he's actually actively reducing the cast. Without spoiling it, there's a couple more that go off the table, and or they weren't really on it yet, but they could have been. They were like potential characters, and he's like, no, they're not going to be here.
I mean, I trust him. He's got a plan. I think he's going to be on the book for a while. I think he has a plan. I just
Everything I want to say, Brent, you might get a DM from me later tonight. Going like, oh gosh, darn it.
no, everyone.
Trying not to spoil it. I really like that issue.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it all. I mean,
Yeah, no,
I'm enjoying it, and
I liking it Justice Society monthly rather than bi or tri-monthly.
yeah,
True.
um,
True.
well, I also like that.
But
I enjoyed Jeff Johns's. I'm going to reread the whole thing again, but I'm glad he's doing what he's doing because I'm digging the heck out of Ghost Machine. So
yep.
and my
right?
latest creator I mean, Jeff Lemire is new to my, I've been a comic reader for 50 years, and just when Black Hammer came out, I was like, oh, okay, this is somebody I'm gonna have to read. So, but let's go do the last page. I like the last pages.
This
It's
I
Chef
love
Kiss. It's
this.
perfect ending.
Mm-hmm.
The 4 panels on each side by the 2 different artists. And yes, they both have their scrapbook, and they end on the words "son" and "dad."
1000% earned. It's not schmaltzy. It's not out of left field. Like this deserved an Eisner Award for like best single issue just based on this last page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get. I mean, this wouldn't have been an issue that everybody bought. But I think Starman fans probably were pretty good about buying everything because we knew it was finite. Because we were always told it was going to be fun. There would be an end. It was never, And what if when he had his doubts when Tony was leaving, what would he have done? Would he have handed it off to somebody?
Oh,
It would have been a
wow.
disaster. It
Yeah.
would have been a disaster. And
Yeah. This page also shows how much collaboration there was between Robinson and the 2 artists. And the text on the 2 scrapbooks mirrors. So you've got on both of them, you've got Starman foils the mist. Both of them, you've got Starman and Bobo foil bank heist, and then the other one says Starman foils Bobo's bank heist.
That's the one I love the most, where it just shows even Bobo's evolution and his handful of appearances at this point.
I love Bobo.
It's awesome. But also, even down to, I just noticed this, that Ted's glasses are round and Jack's earrings are round. It's kind of like, even that is almost like a mirror. It's very clever. In the upper panels, they're both facing in the same direction. One of them's got his sort of hands clasped, the other one's got his hands in his pockets, and then they're both sort of reaching to the right in the next 2 panels. Like the whole thing has been clearly designed in some way.
So the one difference is that Ted has it on his bookshelf, but Jack has it like in an old storage box. Now, to me, Jack puts it eventually, or as soon as he's done looking at it, we'll put it on the bookshelf till the end. But so that's just the one. That's like the only difference. But even then, it's like, aw, he didn't burn in his teenage angst years.
Yeah, and the very slight smiles that they're both showing in the last 2 panels.
And it's a very similar smile. Like they had the same smile.
Yeah.
It's
amazing.
So now we get into I love these character entries in any Who's Who, or Secret Files were a little fancier. The art was a little, I don't know. It's a little
Different styles.
More. And also the printing process had changed from the original Who's Who, because that was really the last four full, 4-color kind of printing. And these all came out on nice glossy paper, and so the numbering of the Starmen, I would not.
That's the one issue is you need to lead it with Jack first. That's not in question, and then Ted. But the rest of them are just so or a little haphazard. At least in the omnibus I'm looking at, where it's like there was a better way to organize those.
Yeah.
Well, I like that Ted and David are in the same one,
yes.
and David's a ghost.
Yeah. But they didn't have to be. Like that would have been one of the solutions, would have been just separate them out
Yeah.
and then have all the others in a numerical order. Like I think, it was hard to follow, especially when you get to the one where there's Starman 2, 3, 2, 4, and 5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if I didn't know, then I would assume that the Prince Gavin was 2, the Starman of 1951 was 4, and then Will was 5, just because, that's how my brain usually works.
And also, why is Jack's logo at the bottom of that one?
Oh, even better question.
Like, it had nothing to do with it.
Nope.
Of
Which
course
one?
he's
Which
gonna
one?
beat them all.
Oh
But,
yeah, it is. Yeah. And is that Tony or is that J.L.
J.H. Williams the third. And
J.H.
again,
Williams?
Will Payton looking nothing like he did in his actual series.
Yeah.
although he has got the white eyes here.
Yes. So points for that at the very least.
Yeah.
And Prince
And
Gavin looks like a
different Prince
teenager.
Gavin costume. It's not the Prince Gavin costume we saw in the story either.
No, it's his second one. His one. See, that's what's weird is because the first one, the red one's the first one, and he doesn't have the staff until the end of the red, and then he has the blue because he
And if
doesn't
you're gonna
always have
change
this.
Sorry, if you're going to change his costume, why didn't they change Will Payton's and use the other Will Payton costume?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I don't get that. I do like. What did you guys think of the? I mean, I like the shade one a great deal. That's a really good shade.
Yep.
Yep.
And I like Michael.
The thing I like about Michael the most is that on the star planet is that it kind of looks like the Legion starburst.
It does.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. It does. But I also like, see, I like Michael in this. Michael is I'm damaged. I have trauma. I'm one of the last survivors of my race. I was a warrior fighting a bad war. Then I was kidnapped and, abused. But he's a sweet soul.
Mm-hmm.
And gentle. Him and the whole thing, his friendship with Solomon Grundy. And then I don't like him really as the action hero. Even though he is, he does it. I just like this picture. It's very Christ-like. It's very kind of hippy dippy, and I kind of like that look.
Where it's like, is that just a giant shirt? It looks like part of it, but then it's like, what's that draped over his arm? Is that his pants that he has draped over?
No, I just think he's wearing like a cape or something, or he's naked. I don't know, but I don't get.
Which that fits with what you were saying. So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't look like he's wearing any underwear. So
yeah.
No.
Well, they did the Pride issue. They did. Was it this year? Yeah, this year. It's him set in the 70s, late 70s, and it's like the other alien is in like a teddy bear leather harness.
Okay.
Yeah. And they go on it's just one of his other species, one of the other survivors of his race, but from the opposite side. And they bond, and they both have done the same thing. They've come to this planet and get lost in the culture because they're both, grieving.
Can either of you explain to me why there are frogs in this illustration?
I was going to ask, is that something to do with Turk County or?
Yeah, and that was something I wanted to bring up is that like Opal City is apparently in Maryland, and that makes 0 sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. I can't see where does it have a harbor?
Yeah, but it's like this is just like Maryland does not have this sort of like mystique or culture that Turk County kind of requires. It's like it would make way more sense if Opal was like
in the bayou.
In the bayou, yes, exactly.
It's more like it's way more like New Orleans than it is anything in Baltimore.
Yeah, it's not an Annapolis stand-in. It's not a Baltimore stand-in.
There's no French. It's the French aspect. throws me because Maryland was founded by Catholics, but not French Catholics.
Right.
So, but um, did
I
I
really
like the
like the
Shades Journal? Did you guys read this originally? It's hard to read it. I can
Uh,
read
I,
it.
I did the first time we recorded. I didn't this time.
I just yeah. I like these. I wish the tiny cursive, text.
That's one thing I cannot stand is like cursive in comic books never looks good. It's always virtually impossible to read. I think that's just like a font size issue.
Yeah. But I like the Shades Journal. I like that we're a lot of what we're hearing is whenever we need a flashback, it's coming from what Shade is written for the most part. Um, but
I
it's
really
similar
like
to the
the
other story, though. What I liked about it was he talks to Jack and then he talks to Ted. And that Ted is at this point kind of not as leery of the Shade at the beginning, because he realizes that they're all starting to realize that he's only a bad guy when he's not an Opal. And he only does that because he's bored.
Yep.
Not really a bad guy. He's just immortal and bored. Um,
I was going to say the Starman 7, the Jack Knight illustration is very reminiscent of the DC Direct Starman statue in terms of the pose. It's not the staff is not exactly the same. Um, that's probably more like the action figure, but the pose is certainly almost taken from here, you'd say.
yeah,
Even the logo under him, the sort of eagle with the star, is it's in this image. It's in the background of this image, the one he's kneeling on.
oh, is that what the plinth or whatever the pedestal he's on
Yeah,
that
the
statue?
pedestal is that
Oh,
exact same logo.
yeah, looking that up right now. In the version I have, Jack's got a goatee too with it, but other than that, yeah, exactly what you're saying, Brent. It's that exact background. That's yeah.
Yeah, my action figure also had the goatee. I decided to go
I
with the
say I
goatee.
had both, and the goatee one is still in this case. It's beat up, but it's still in the bot. It's still on the thing. But I've broken a couple of them. I'm on my third Ted from DC Direct
Yeah, the
because
the staff is not very strong. It's very easy to snap.
no, and I got the DC Universe Jack and Ted, and they're not really nice. Um, I'm gonna stop by. I think I've got everybody I want. I bought too many figures recently. Um, I like them at a bargain. I got a Ragman and a Captain Carrot, and yeah, Kirby, you're gonna like that fire one. So,
Yeah, no, I need to just so I can have an extra friggin' female character. Criminy.
yeah, it is. McFarlane does it like a girl hero.
Uh,
It's like a sausage fest. It's awful. They're very
oh,
rare.
it bugs me so much with the DC superpowers line where it's like, give me a Black Canary, give me a Zatanna, give me a Hawk
Anybody.
Girl. I'm not asking for a deep bench here.
Yeah, it's really they're not a lot of females. But let's talk about these last couple. The Miss Family Portrait. I love it.
Yep.
The
I,
dad
Yeah.
looks incredible. Senior Miss looks very creepy. Like, don't let him talk to children.
no, I just noticed he only has four fingers. It looks like he's missing one.
Is it just behind the other one?
Oh, it might be just somehow crooked or something, but yeah, I mean he's got the little. I just figure like kind of with the pointed ears and okay, granted he's just wearing a 40s suit that but yeah, looks weird.
I think the little baby Kyle is quite funny. The way he's kind of looking at the camera.
Wait, what are we doing here?
Mhm.
And by the way, as someone who's spent the last weekend with like a 1 and 2 year old, you can't get them to look straight on the camera. It's impossible.
No.
Yeah.
Um, I like the one with the O'Dares. That's Chase? Is that no? That's Tony.
Yep, Tony Harris, Wade Vaughn, Gob Badger, and Patricia Mulvihill. You can clearly tell I've never read those names out loud before.
Uh, And I like the one about Matt when they put it as Scalp Hunter.
Yep. And yeah, my only experience with Scalp Hunter has been like in Jonah Hex backup. So
Yeah, I read it. My brother was a Western comic fan. He liked Scalp Hunter. He also liked Jonah and Batlash, any of those. Um, I like having the map of Opal City.
there's a Time Warner building. I'm like, okay, guys, we know who owns you.
Yeah. But the timeline's not in. It's on
Detail.
the app, but it's not in either of the books, is it?
Not in the reprints.
Yeah.
It's I think it's really cool this the map, the detail, considering it's Tony Harris drawing. Like it's Phil Jimenez level detail. Like he's spent a lot of time drawing this architecture, which I think is really cool.
One thing that I like is that it does list where all of the O'Dares are living. And I'm like, if I were really kind of looking at this in more detail, it's like, okay, does this match kind of what their pay scale is here? Or...
Well, like any city, I mean, cities have their neighborhoods, their little niches. I mean, Richmond's not that big a city, but it's got, each neighborhood's got its own little feel,
Yeah.
based on when it was built or when the chicken shits burned it to the ground when they left. There's a sign right by where I work where this is where they torched everything as they left the city, and Jeff Davis was dressed in drag to get out and not get captured. Someone was asking me, "What do you think of it?" Like, most of them were related to me, so I don't know. Whatever. But I do like this, and I like it. Well, like one of the street is Burnley. Um,
There's an Ellsworth.
Whitney Ellsworth, the
Oh,
editor of Adventure Comics.
okay.
Um, and produce one of the head writers of Superman's TV show.
Oh.
Yeah, that was his. Pyle, I don't know, God, who Pyle is. Maybe,
It's not Gomer Pyle.
no, it's Willie Pyle. I'm assuming it's Willie Pyle, the cartoonist, created the term GI Joe.
Oh,
He
okay.
was a war correspondent, but he was a cartoonist, and GI Joe was his. He made up the name for American soldiers as GI Joe, and he was in combat, and he would draw. Um, there's actually a black and white war movie about him in the 50s.
Oh.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
Willie
I just
Pyle.
noticed the street called Saranen Way. If you can see that one, sort of on the left.
Oh, yep, I see it. Yep.
Yeah,
But
I've just looked that up, and it's a reference to an Eero Saarinen, who was a Finnish-American architect and industrial designer who created innovative designs for buildings and monuments. And he was around from 1910 to 1961, so right in that sort of Opal City.
so he was there pre-Deco, through Deco, and into the 60s modern. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because there's a lot of Art Deco and futuristic kind of things.
Yep. Opal City has done well to where it's not like Gotham, where it's just Gothic architecture. You can see a variety of buildings here, and I just want to mention like there's Goodwin Hall, so Archie Goodwin and Tyler Pharmaceuticals, which another nice little nod.
And Sloan Building, which would be Terry Sloan, I'm guessing.
Oh, I didn't. Oh,
Which
good
one was that?
catch.
What was that one?
Number 22, the Sloan Building.
Oh,
That's cool.
Ellis School of Art and Design.
Tyler Pharmaceuticals, obviously Rex Tyler.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Were there any other? Let's see. So again, it's what we were saying earlier. Like number 4, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, but it's like that to me again reads more Louisiana than it does Maryland. And I'm sorry to keep harping on that, but it's like yeah.
Yeah.
Hold
That's
on.
cool.
There's a name, Meskin Medical. Meskin. Is that
Will Meskin?
Is there a Don Meskin, or am I thinking combine that with someone else?
Mort Meskin? Mort Meskin. He was a Golden Age comic artist, And he's done some Sheena the Jungle, Vigilante, Wildcat, Starman. He drew some Starman.
There you go.
Johnny Quick. His style was heavily influenced by Citizen Kane. He created the Wizard for Timely Comics.
It's just the respect that Robinson is showing to everything that's come before.
Oh, absolutely.
And linking, and this is kind of why I approached you in the first place, Ross, about this. Is I love it. This is the issue as a Legion fan that we discover that he's even going to link to Starboy.
Yeah.
And that appears at the end of the timeline, and it's like, this is Robinson respecting everything that's come before, adding to it, taking it in a different direction at times, but he's not a wrecker. He's more of a builder when it comes to continuity, and I think he does it in a way that's more subtle than Jeff Johns. I think Jeff Johns does it well on many occasions, but I think this is so much more subtle.
It is. Yeah, I agree.
Put it the name of a building as a previous artist from the book. It's just
and that he went and did his homework. That
Yeah.
he found a way to read all of Ted's adventures. I guess because I don't think the archives came out before. Did they come out before this, or did they come out because of this? I mean, they did Golden Age archives. They didn't do a lot of them. I mean, they did a lot of Wonder Woman, a lot of Batman, a lot of Superman, but there was Ted's stuff is all 2 volumes. That's it. That's everything. I think Golden Age Sandman is 2. Dr. Fate was 2. Hell, Legion, Seven Soldiers was 3. That ran for a while. And I mean, I had like the Justice League ones and some others, but the only ones I kept were the Golden Age, the All-Star Comics, and then I found the Seven Soldiers. I got all 3 of them for like less than $80 as a set. And I got the Starman. They were like, volume 1 was like $20 and volume 2 was like $50. And the quality of the second one is rough because they're all photostats, but it works for it really works with the Gershwin art because the Gershwin art is so different. But I think Robinson really he did a deep dive, and I know he had a love of these characters, but how much did he know about Ted when he pitched this? I'm gonna have to go back and reread that alter ego. Yeah, alter ego. Those articles, because I'm very interested. Dave from Earth 2 podcast said also read his Airboy.
I've read that
because it's about kind of his mindset when his marriage was falling apart in the middle of doing this.
It was 4 issues of a man's midlife crisis, without a doubt.
Was it?
Yeah,
I'm interested in it. I'm interested in it. I never got it because I thought it's not about. I read. I liked Airboy.
If you're reading it for Airboy, it's not that.
Yeah. See, that's kind of why I stayed away from it.
I mean, James is the main character. James and the artist are the main characters.
I'm gonna have to track one down and read it sometime because I keep finding other things he's written that I'm surprised he wrote it. I didn't realize he wrote a Scarlet Witch series. And it's good. It's really, really good. He has a different artist every issue, and it's her after House of M, and she's just not dealing with being a superhero. She's just doing private investigation. People need things found or something, and she does it. And it's all about character. Like that, like Starman is. It's all about her coming to terms with what she did and who she is and not who she isn't. And there's an issue where she basically tears Pietro a new asshole. You'd love it. She basically tears Quicksilver, says, "You're a jackass and you're abusive and get out of my life. I want nothing to do with you."
So it's on in stock. I'm adding that to my wish list literally right now while we're recording.
It's
So
actually it's really good. I was surprised how good it was. The covers are worth it just to look at, but
um
it's him playing with character and real character, which is this what this comic does.
oh
This
yes.
issue with learning more about them. Um, I just really like this issue.
What his relationship with his own dad was at this time. I don't know if he's ever
I
spoken. You
Man.
gotta
I
wonder
find it I'm a
where would
I find those kind of conversations very interesting in some ways. Uh, and I would like to know what it was. What were you close? You thought you weren't close, but were closer when you reevaluated it,
did you lose your
Was his
father
dad
around
dead?
this time? Like I don't know, was he losing his dad at this time, and that's why he's
Yeah.
written this like love
Yeah.
letter to his dad? It's like who
Yeah.
knows?
Who
Was this
knows?
what he wished it was like? He wished they'd reconciled, or
I mean,
who
I
knows?
know I've lost both my parents now. And I lost them late. I mean, I was almost sick. I mean, they lived a long time. My mom was 88, my father was 92. And it hurt like being a little kid. I mean, I have an older sister who would always complain, why does mom treat me like a child? It's because you're her fucking child. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter that you're 70.
yeah,
You're her baby girl. And I didn't realize until I was in my 40s that I got sick. I mean, I had a cancer scare and my dad freaked out a little bit. And my ass had this, my sister, what's up with dad? He's like, he calls me and I appreciate it, but I'm okay. He's like, they're like, dumbass, doesn't matter that you're 40. You're his little boy. He doted on you. He's upset. He's worried. And I'm like, okay. But my dad was a Marine and a Scot. I mean, he said, I love you. And he kissed you when you said goodbye and was affectionate to a point, but he grew up in the 30s. So it
just
was, you don't know your parents until someone has to tell you stuff. My stepmother has to tell me things like, oh no, he thought this or that. Like when you started directing plays, he was like over the moon. It's like, really? Yeah. When she found out you were directing a play, he thought that was the biggest, greatest thing in the world. Because my dad liked theater, because that's where I get it from. He took me to see plays. He liked plays, you know.
it's so good. Have either of you seen the Australian TV series called Upright?
No.
Oh,
Okay, well,
it's
at
the
that
Tim Minchin
the
and
Tim Minchin story.
I love him. I love him,
Yes,
and I've watched an episode or two of it because the young lady who plays the hitchhiker is playing Supergirl.
yeah, yeah. Millie Alcock. She's in House of the Dragon as well, and she's playing Supergirl. That's right.
She's
So
really
she's
good.
amazing in this series. But this series, it kind of parallels what we're talking about because Tim Minchin wrote this series to sort of, it's a bit autobiographical. Like he's actually almost telling his own story because in the story, his mother is dying in Western Australia and he does a road trip from Eastern Australia to Western Australia across the center of the country. And it's all about the adventure that he and this Millie's character Meg have. And at the same time as he's writing this, his real life mother is dying of cancer. And he basically wrote this because he can't say the things he wanted to say to her and to his siblings. He couldn't say them, but he could write a show about them. And it was quite touching. Last year, I went to see him in concert, and he talked about this in the show. And in his second last show of that run, his mother actually died that day, and he was performing this show and talking about his mum, but he wasn't with his mum, which was it was this bizarre set of circumstances. But I think it's really interesting to it's a great show. Highly recommend it. It's
I during the COVID, I went down an Australian pop music kind of rabbit hole, discovered videos of Rock Wiz And then I
Mhm.
went in and then I went down. I fell in love with Paul Kelly, and I went down that rabbit hole. And I found Tim Minchin when he was just doing like comedy songs in England,
Yep.
like Three Poofs and One Piano, which is a brilliant song about censorship on the BBC. He did it on Jonathan Ross show. It was hysterical. And then just seeing him do other things, like, he was in that big arena convention center, Jesus Christ Superstar as Judas with Mel
Yep.
B,
Yep.
which he's brilliant in it. The Jesus sucks. He's not very good. But Tim
But
Minchin's great
yeah,
as
Tim
Judas.
Minchin's great as Judas, and he
He
wrote all the music for the Matilda musical as
yeah,
well. So
yeah.
if you,
I
that's
saw
all
him
Tim.
on a like a Virgin. I discovered ballpark music. They remind me of REM in a way that their lyrics don't really make sense sometimes.
Yeah, if you've never seen it, his graduation speech is worth a watch.
I might have seen that. He's great.
You
He's
might have,
really, really talented.
yeah.
And his comedy was very biting. It was funny,
Oh,
but he would poke the bear.
he does, and he's also incredibly intellectual. Like, and when you hear him speak in real life, he's incredibly intelligent man. Like he's next level and living in a different universe to the rest of us. Much like Grant Morrison, when I listen to Grant Morrison talk, he's in another universe, and
Has a better
absolutely
grasp of what's going
admirable.
on.
But I'm not in that. I'm not at that level.
Yeah. Yeah. I like him. I think because when I saw him do all these different things, and it's like, that's what good artists do. I do pop music, then I act. I write his TV show. I'm gonna write a musical based on Roald Dahl.
Yeah. He also did Groundhog Day, as a musical, which
Did
is
he do the
hilarious.
Groundhog music?
Really?
Groundhog
Groundhog
musical?
Day musical as well. That's his music. Yeah.
He's really good. He's really good. All right,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you for doing this a second time. I appreciate it. So, let's try to do recommendations on the end of these. I'll do mine real quick. First, I just read for the first time. I got one of the DC finest, the Batgirl, Cassandra Cain one by Kelly Puckett and Scott Damon. Scott Damon. Um, Damian Scott. Damian Scott. I loved it. I never read it. I read Batman around that era because it was Bruce Wayne Free Fugitive is in there, and the one where Commissioner Gordon gets framed. But I loved it. It was a lot of fun. It's from that era. It's from the same time when Supergirl was doing good with Peter David. I liked Peter David Supergirl. Connell, Superboy, Tim Drake Robin. It's really good. And it's good Oracle. I prefer Barbara Crippled as the Oracle. I do really like that version of her. I'm glad I like what they're doing with her now, and she could be Batgirl and be Oracle. That's fine. But it was really good. I was surprised how much I liked it. I'm glad I got it, and I will probably read it again. I don't read trades straight through normally. I like to jump around. And I read it over about a week. There's not a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of it's odd. It's one of those 90 books where there's less word balloons and narration and dialogue, but I don't miss it at all. I just thought I was really surprised how much I liked it. How about you, Kirby? What do you got?
Okay, so last weekend I finished reading through the original run of Eternal Warrior from Valiant Comics. So the short pitch is, hey, do you like Highlander? Then you'll read this comic and you'll enjoy it. Eternal Warrior, it follows Gallade, Ani Parad. I'm probably butchering the last name just off memory. He's the Eternal Warrior, has been around since 3000 BC, and it chronicles him being the fist and steel for the geomancer who listens and talks with the earth, and then at a certain point, a little after John Ostrander takes over as writer, Valiant spun off geomancer to its own books, and now it's like he's having to wrestle with the fact of like, I've been doing this for like 5,000 years. What do I do now? And he will go on, some John Ostrander stories. And it's like, oh, I'm not enjoying this. Why am I not enjoying this? Because you've made yourself like a political entity. You need to make yourself like a warrior for the world again, not a soldier for a cause. And it's just really well written. It never jumps the shark, even when werewolves kind of show up out of nowhere towards the last couple of issues. It's definitely one of the stronger original Valiant run books. And if you can find these issues, I was able to get like I think every issue out of the cheap bins. So I definitely would recommend the original run. Also, the more current run by I want to say Fred Van Lante is also worth reading if you can get the chance. So.
Yeah.
So good.
How about you, Brent?
Mine is probably a bit more general, but anything Mark Waid's writing about Superman at the moment, I'm really enjoying.
Me too.
Two come to mind. One of them is I think it's called the Summer Special or the Summer of Superman Special.
Yeah, that's big.
Yep.
It starts AM.
It's got 3 stories in it, but I really loved the first one, which is an explanation of why Clark never ends up with Lana and he ends up with Lois, which is very long running Silver Age storyline of Lana and Lois fighting over Clark or over Superman, and that whole sort of 2 girls fighting over 1 boy, and Waid just wraps it all up like a perfect gift to us as readers and says, this is why, and I'm not going to spoil it at all, Kirby, I promise, but
no, that one I read.
Yeah, I read that.
I'm glad. And the other one I've loved is The Last Days of Lex Luthor.
Yes.
I haven't read that yet. I haven't read that. It's on the app.
And it's Black Label, so it's sort of set in a different, continuity. I did not love the Legion appearance in it, but I did love the Lex and Kal-El storyline that runs through it, and it's pretty much, it's a redemption story, and it's a really nice piece, and I think Wade's doing fantastic work. I think
he's making up for lost time.
I think they've kind of handed him the keys. We want kind of one, because he's touching everything, and I've really liked a lot of the All In stuff. I'm excited about the crossover, the villains from the past.
Yep.
I had to get, because I didn't ask my local shop to pull, because I've only been reading The World's Finest when it comes out in the little hardcovers, because I was behind. So I'll just get I got the first hardcover, and then I went, I'm gonna get it all in hardcover, because that's just a love letter to the comics. He can write a comic in 2025 that you could have handed somebody 1975, 1985, 1995 and enjoy it.
Yep.
I think he really gets it for the most part. And I've liked all the Superman stuff. The action stuff was
it was shaky.
It was shaky, but I'm on board. I'm liking I'm enjoying everything. I want to see where this goes. I really want to see what this Darkseid didn't really die. It's just where the energy, whatever the Omega thing is going to be, and how they tainted the universe. I want to see and he's not going to wrap it up soon. I don't think it's going to wrap up relatively quickly. I think he's setting up Act 2, not
I think
the finale.
July we're getting the coming together of the Absolute books, and I think we might get a bit more about the Legion. It sounds like
and we're going to get another Justice League book with heroes that are displaced from time because of what's happening. Booster, Golden Beetle.
Oh, Silver Scarab?
No, Golden Beetle. She's half Booster Gold.
Oh, yes, that character.
Yeah, she's a descendant of both Blue Beetle and Booster. There's a Batman Beyond.
That's right.
Future Batman, and Helena Wayne from the Johns run.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Clever.
Yeah. It's Wade. I can't ever think. Have you ever read a Wade comic that you weren't entertained by?
There's some issues of the Kingdom that were just kind of. You were doing a sequel to your magnum opus, and you're not going to hit it.
I liked half of that.
Yeah.
I like the Offspring stuff.
The Offspring was the best issue.
Yeah. So
the rest of it,
his later,
huh?
His later Legion of Superheroes stuff when he obviously had the rug pulled out from under him with the lightning saga going on with Brad Meltzer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
Stuff's a bit weak too. It's kind of like he's a bit deflated in that little section.
Jimbo
but
got me to kind of
love it.
focus and read those first 2 arcs because I'd never really given him a chance, and he came on the show, and I'm glad he did because I liked it. I didn't really like it when it came out. It just, I was like, it's not my Legion. I didn't hate
On
it.
the
I was just,
reread, it's really good. And I didn't
yeah,
like it either. I was shitty, I think, with the loss of the other version, but I didn't
just,
like the reboot either. So
I mean, they really kind of pulled the they really did disservice to the post Zero Hour Legion, how they got rid of them. But yeah, that's just blood under the bridge at this point.
it is, and it should be, and that's what's great about Wade. He's just kind of, he's not focusing on all that. He's just telling us good stories with the basic iconic characters that we love. He doesn't need to give us the whole backstory. He's giving us enough. And
yeah,
you know what? The Absolute books have sold more than any comic books have sold for a very long time. So financially, DC have to love him. Like, he's making the money.
Yeah, the all-in stuff's good. I think I've read every Absolute book. I've gotten every one in floppy form. I don't buy them, and they're all really, really good. That's one of the Wonder Woman. Hayden, what is it? What's his name? The artist. He just signed an exclusive with DC because he wants to stay. It's just amazing. The Superman's unique. And I like the Flash.
Flash one's really good.
I like, the twist in the second issue was like, oh, wow, I wasn't seeing that coming. And I even like I think people I've seen some people say the Green Lantern's the one that's not ticking with them. It's like, it's going to be really dark, folks. This is going to be not your regular Green Lantern. It's very, very different. And have you read the Martian Manhunter?
No, I haven't read Green Lantern or Martian Manhunter. They didn't really feel.
I'm a big Javier Rodriguez fan, for the artist on Martian Manhunter. Al Ewing and him did two Defenders miniseries that were just absolutely brilliant, and he drew Wade's history of the Marvel Universe, which was brilliant, beautiful.
That's good. For someone who's not a Marvel person, it kind of helped me understand a bit more what's going on.
He really does condense it into 200 and some pages, and he didn't miss anything. He really got it all. So it was pretty cool. I'm just hoping he does. I'm a little nervous about DC. I know I trust him, but I'm still nervous that he's going to do something that I'm not going to agree with. But
there's going to be a lot of like, hey, you know what, Mark Waid, I trust you. I'm going to choose to ignore that part, those 3 panels that right there, and I'm just going to keep the continuity that's going on in Earth Kirby here.
Yeah, I've been here I've written all the crises since the beginning. I was working at a comic shop at the beginning of Crisis on Infinite Earths and was in college when it ended. And it's just like, kind of ride the wave, man. Sometimes they screw it up, sometimes they fix it, sometimes they screw it up again. So there's a little, hopefully he finds a way to mesh it all. I liked his Teen Titans World Finest with Chris Samee. That was really good. So, all right, guys, thank you again. And folks, as always, please be safe, be smart, be kind to one another, and read some comics. Read some Starman.
Man, that's gonna be an interesting thing whenever that happens. Fingers crossed.
What? I'm sending up positive vibes into the world that it's Mark Waid. He doesn't fuck shit up. Just let it be some nice hybrid. I'm old.
I have a Legion idea, but I'll tell you when we finish recording.
Oh, okay, cool. I just want something that's not going to piss everybody off. That's all I want.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm getting tired of being angry about it
Yeah.
or just disappointed. All right. Bum, 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 bum. Well, hello, and welcome to Stop. Oh, shit. Wrong fucking one. All
No,
right.
you were right.
Was no.
You said
It's
Stop
Opal
What
City
Steve.
Confidential.
Oh, it's yeah.
It's Opal City Confidential. At least I didn't do Gallifrey's Most Wanted.
Yeah, that happens most
All right.
force.